If you're over 50, there's something I need to tell you, not to alarm you, but to protect you. Every movement you make, and just as importantly, every movement you skip, has an impact on your heart. That's not a metaphor. It's a biological reality I've witnessed over and over in more than 35 years of practicing medicine. You see, after 50, your heart is no longer the same. It's still strong, still reliable, still doing its best to keep you going. But it's also more sensitive, more vulnerable, less forgiving. What if I told you that the very exercises you've been told to do, the ones promoted in magazines, shown in fitness apps, or encouraged by friends, could be quietly doing more harm than good? I know it sounds counterintuitive. After all, aren't we always told that movement is medicine? That working out is the secret to longevity? That staying active is the way to stay young? Yes, movement is essential. But the kind of movement you choose and how you approach it makes all the difference after a certain age. In my clinic, I've seen it too often. A man in his late 60s who jogs every morning, thinking he's doing everything right. A woman in her 70s following an online fitness class, trying to keep up with people half her age. They feel strong, they feel motivated, they feel proud. And then, suddenly, something doesn't feel right. A racing heart, shortness of breath, dizziness, or worse, a hospital visit that no one saw coming. And when we look closer, it wasn't their diet or a genetic condition that triggered the problem. It was the way they were exercising, pushing a heart that needed compassion, not intensity. You don't hear this often, because no one wants to tell seniors to slow down. No one wants to be the voice of caution in a world obsessed with youth and energy. But I believe the truth is empowering, not limiting. I believe that when you understand how your body is changing, you can make choices that give you more life, not just more years, but more quality in those years. Clearer thinking, steadier steps, a heart that beats with ease, not strain. That's why this video matters. I'm going to walk you through 5 types of exercise habits that may be slowly weakening your heart. These aren't extreme workouts or dangerous sports. These are ordinary activities that millions of people over 50 do every day without realizing the risks. And don't worry, I'll also show you safer, smarter alternatives that still keep you moving, just without the hidden danger. If you care about staying independent, if you want to protect your brain, your energy, your ability to live fully, then you need to understand how exercise affects the aging heart, and you need to be willing to change what no longer serves you. This isn't about giving up. It's about choosing better. It's about movement with wisdom, effort with awareness, health, not just fitness. So take a deep breath, settle in, and stay with me. Because the first habit we're going to talk about may seem harmless, but it's one of the biggest culprits behind sudden heart strain in people over 50. Let me begin this section with a truth I've had to share with more patients than I care to count. After the age of 50, your heart is still strong, but it's no longer invincible. It doesn't respond to shock the way it once did. And yet, so many adults in their 50s, 60s, and beyond are drawn to the kind of workouts that demand rapid bursts of intensity. They believe that pushing harder means aging better. But in reality, for many of them, it means aging faster, and sometimes dangerously. High-intensity interval training, or HIIT, has become one of the most popular forms of exercise in recent years. Quick, efficient, sweaty. It promises big results in less time, and for younger bodies, it can indeed be beneficial. But here's the problem. HIIT demands that your heart switch gears rapidly. It forces sudden spikes in heart rate, followed by brief moments of recovery, and then back up again. For a heart over 50, especially one already dealing with hidden arterial plaque, stiffened vessels, or mild arrhythmias, this roller coaster isn't just exhausting, it's risky. I remember one patient, a man in his early 60s who had recently retired and decided to get serious about his health. He joined a gym and started doing HIIT classes 5 mornings a week. On the outside, He looked great, lost weight, had energy, but internally, his heart was under stress. After a few months, he came to see me with symptoms he thought were unrelated. Occasional dizziness, sleep trouble, shortness of breath when climbing stairs. We ran a full cardiac panel. The results were clear: elevated blood pressure, signs of left ventricular strain, and early rhythm irregularities. He was stunned. "But I've been exercising," he said, "and that was the problem." When you force your body into breathless states over and over, without proper adaptation, the heart doesn't get stronger. It gets overstimulated. The electrical signals that control rhythm become more vulnerable. The blood vessels that regulate pressure become more reactive. You may not notice it immediately, and that's exactly why this kind of damage is so dangerous. It's quiet, it builds, and then one day, it shows up. This is especially true for those with underlying conditions, even mild ones like high blood pressure, borderline cholesterol, or insulin resistance. It puts them at a disadvantage because it increases the body's demand for oxygen while narrowing the time to deliver it. Your heart races to keep up, and the older it is, the more work it must do just to maintain pace even more if the person is dehydrated, sleep-deprived, or under stress. The emotional component is just as real. Many people over 50 start these routines not because they want to show off, but because they're afraid of aging, of losing independence, of becoming irrelevant. They think, if I sweat more, I'll stay young. But movement should not be driven by fear. It should be guided by respect. Respect for what your body has done and what it now needs. Now, let me be clear. I am not telling you to avoid intensity forever, but intensity must match your physiology. If you haven't exercised in years, your heart is not ready for sprint drills or 40-second mountain climbers. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. So what should you do instead? Choose movement that builds without breaking. Brisk walking, cycling at a conversational pace, light water aerobics, Tai Chi. These forms of activity gently stimulate cardiovascular strength without triggering unnecessary stress responses. They keep your heart in motion without sending it into alarm. As I often tell my patients, your heart doesn't need drama, it needs rhythm. We're not training for marathons anymore. We're training for life, for grandchildren, for travel, for mornings without pain. The goal is not to prove anything. The goal is to preserve everything. Strength is important at every age. It helps us stay upright, mobile, and independent. But after the age of 50, the way we build that strength and the way we define it needs to change. Many people, eager to maintain their fitness, return to the exercises they knew in their 30s or 40s. Sit-ups, crunches, heavy dumbbell lifts. Movements that once felt familiar and effective. But your heart, your blood vessels, your internal pressure systems, they don't respond the way they used to. And without realizing it, you may be placing tremendous strain on your body's most vital systems. Let me explain. When you perform a crunch or lift a heavy weight, especially if you hold your breath or brace too hard, you dramatically increase something called intra-abdominal pressure. This is the force that builds inside your belly and chest when you strain. And it doesn't just stay there. It pushes upward, compressing your heart, narrowing your blood vessels, and creating a sudden spike in blood pressure. In younger adults, the body compensates quickly. But after 50, especially in people with stiff arteries or early plaque buildup, this pressure wave can cause real damage. I had a patient once, a 67-year-old woman who had been doing core workouts every morning using a popular online routine. She was consistent, disciplined. She didn't smoke, ate well, and had no obvious health issues. But one day, she fainted midway through a set of crunches. No warning, no pain, just lightheadedness, and then collapse. When she came to my clinic, we ran tests and discovered a brief arrhythmia and an abnormal blood pressure surge during exertion. Her heart was trying to adapt and failing. She was shocked. "But I thought I was helping my core," she said. And in a way, she was. But she had forgotten that building strength isn't just about muscles. It's about blood flow, oxygen delivery, and cardiovascular coordination. The crunch may help your abs, but if it spikes your pressure and starves your brain of oxygen for even a few seconds, it's not worth it. The same goes for heavy lifting. Many adults return to weight training as a way to stay strong, and I fully support that, but only when done mindfully. Lifting weights that are too heavy, moving with poor form, or breathing incorrectly can turn a helpful workout into a health hazard. I've seen patients who developed chest pain after lifting, or experienced irregular heart rhythms that required monitoring, even medication, not because they were careless, but because they didn't know how much pressure they were putting on their cardiovascular system. And that's the heart of this message. After 50, your body's tolerance for rapid internal stress changes. Your heart doesn't like surprises. It wants consistency, gradual challenge, controlled effort. That's why I often recommend resistance bands over free weights for my patients. Bands create tension without compressing the chest. They allow for slower, smoother movements. And more importantly, they encourage breathing, not breath holding. Core work can still be part of your routine, but it should focus on stability, not strain. Think planks over crunches, slow leg raises instead of jerking sit-ups. Strength should never come at the expense of safety. And fitness should never be a fight against your body. At this stage in life, it's not about pushing limits. It's about building wisely, moving with care, and protecting the heart that has carried you this far. There's something undeniably energizing about fast-paced movement, jumping jacks, step aerobics, dance routines. They make us feel alive, youthful, defiant against time. And for many people over 50, there's a sense of pride in keeping up, in not letting age slow you down. I've seen it time and again in my patients, men and women, who take on these high-motion workouts with admirable spirit. But as a physician who's worked with aging adults for decades, I need to share something critical. Speed and impact, once harmless, can become quietly dangerous after a certain age. Here's why. As we age, several things begin to shift inside our bodies subtly, gradually, but undeniably. Our joints lose flexibility. Our balance becomes less reliable. The nervous system processes signals just a bit slower. Blood vessels become more rigid, and the heart takes longer to adapt to rapid changes in demand. That means when you go from standing still to jumping, from walking to twisting, or from a gentle pace to a sudden sprint, your body has to play catch-up, and sometimes it can't keep up. I remember one particular patient, a 72-year-old man named George. He had been attending group fitness classes at his local community center, mostly to stay social and active. But the routines included a lot of high knees, side shuffles, quick directional changes. After one class, he came in complaining of dizziness and what he called skipped heartbeats. Tests revealed no major damage, but he was experiencing brief episodes of arrhythmia triggered by sudden exertion. What felt like just being a little off was his heart struggling to adapt to rapid, uncoordinated motion. The movements we did effortlessly in our 30s, hopping, twisting, lunging, require far more from an aging body. They ask the heart to shift gears instantly. They challenge the nervous system to adjust posture and blood flow in milliseconds. And when those systems are already slower, the response may be too late. That's how falls happen. That's how blood pressure drops. That's how otherwise healthy adults end up confused, bruised, or hospitalized, all from one well-meaning workout. Let's also talk about something many people don't realize. These movements don't just stress your muscles, they stress your inner equilibrium. Fast changes in direction confuse your brain's balance centers. They can lead to nausea, fatigue, or even panic in those with mild vestibular dysfunction, something far more common after age 60 than most of us know. Now, I'm not saying you should avoid all movement, but the kind of movement you choose matters. Replace jumping jacks with side steps. Replace lunges with gentle squats using support. Instead of step aerobics, try water-based classes that reduce joint impact. Choose routines that emphasize fluidity, not speed, control, not chaos. And if you're attending group classes, don't be afraid to modify the moves. You're not there to prove anything. You're there to care for your body. The people who matter won't judge you, and the ones who judge don't matter. What I want most for you is this: confidence in movement, without fear of injury. A strong heart that doesn't panic every time you exercise. A body that works with you, not against you. So when you move, move deliberately. Let your exercise be graceful, not rushed, respectful, not reckless. That's how we protect the balance we've worked a lifetime to build. There's a common habit I see in people over 51 that seems harmless, even helpful. After dinner, once the house is quiet and the day's obligations are behind them, many decide it's finally time to focus on themselves. They put on walking shoes, do a few stretches, maybe a light workout video. It feels like a good use of time, a disciplined act. But what if I told you that this very routine, done too late in the evening, might be quietly disrupting one of the most critical healing processes your body needs, your sleep? Let me explain. As we age, our sleep becomes more fragile. The cycles that govern our rest, called circadian rhythms, become increasingly sensitive to disruption. Unlike in our youth, when we could fall asleep after a late dinner or evening jog with no consequences, the body after 50 needs more preparation. It needs signals: calm, darkness, stillness. And when we exercise too close to bedtime, we send the opposite message. Physical activity raises body temperature. It elevates heart rate. It stimulates cortisol and adrenaline, the very hormones we rely on during the day to stay alert. But at night, these signals confuse the brain. Instead of winding down, your body goes into standby mode, as if expecting a challenge. And when that happens, the transition into deep, restorative sleep is delayed, fragmented, shallow. I once had a patient, a 66-year-old woman named Karen, who told me she had been walking on the treadmill every evening after cleaning up the kitchen. "It helps me digest," she said. But what she didn't realize was that she'd been waking up more at night, feeling unrested in the morning, and gradually becoming more irritable and forgetful. When we adjusted her exercise routine to the early afternoon, her sleep improved within 2 weeks. No pills, just timing. The consequences of poor sleep after 50 go far beyond feeling tired. Inadequate or fragmented sleep has been linked to increased blood pressure, higher blood sugar levels, elevated inflammation, and even cognitive decline. Your heart, in particular, suffers. Sleep is when the heart rate slows, when blood pressure drops, when vessels repair themselves. When you delay or disturb that cycle, you're robbing your cardiovascular system of its most essential recovery time. This is why I urge my patients to treat their evenings as sacred a time for calming the system, not stimulating it. Trade cardio for calm. Replace fast walking with gentle stretching. Choose a short breathing exercise instead of a workout app. Or better yet, move your exercise routine to the morning or early afternoon, when your body is biologically primed for activity. And here's something many forget. Rest is not laziness. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a form of medicine, one your heart desperately depends on. You wouldn't skip your medications. Don't skip the healing that only sleep can provide. So the next time you find yourself tempted to push in one last workout before bed, ask yourself, what does my heart need most right now? A little more movement or a lot more rest? Because in this stage of life, longevity doesn't come from how much you move. It comes from how well you recover. If you've made it this far, I want to take a moment and thank you. Not just for watching, but for caring, for showing up, for choosing to pay attention to something that most people ignore until it's too late. That already tells me something about you. You're not just interested in living longer. You want to live better. And that's exactly why I wanted to speak to you today, not just as a doctor, but as someone who's been in this field long enough to know the small decisions you make every day can shape the rest of your life. I've spent over 3 decades sitting beside people in clinic rooms, emergency departments, and hospital beds. Some of them strong, active, vibrant. Others frightened, confused, overwhelmed by a diagnosis they never expected. And the stories, though different, often echo the same words. I didn't think it was a big deal. That one sentence still stays with me, because after 50, almost everything becomes a big deal, not in a fearful way, but in a meaningful way. The truth is, your heart doesn't need perfection. It needs attention. It doesn't need punishing workouts, extreme diets, or aggressive schedules. It needs rhythm, consistency, rest, and kindness. The same heart that beat for you when you were a child, when you fell in love, when you raised your family, is still beating for you now. And every time you choose to care for it gently, it rewards you in ways you may not see immediately, but you will feel them in the clarity of your mind, the ease of your steps, the peace in your sleep. I've lost patients who were doing all the right things, but missed the one truth that matters most. Health is not about doing more. It's about doing what fits your body, your age, your current needs. It's about moving in a way that protects, not provokes. Eating in a way that nourishes, not punishes. Resting in a way that restores, not numbs. You are not in competition with your younger self. You are in partnership with your future one. And that future self, the one who wants to dance at a wedding, hold a grandchild, travel without fear, is counting on the choices you make today. So if you take anything from this message, let it be this. You are not too old. It is not too late. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. Be aware. Be kind to yourself. There is no trophy for overexertion. No reward for ignoring your body's warnings. But there is a quiet, priceless gift that comes from listening a steady heart, a sharp mind, a life with fewer regrets. Let go of the myths. Let go of the pressure. And let in the truth that health is not earned through struggle. It is preserved through wisdom. Start choosing not what impresses others, but what protects you. That is strength. That is courage. That is what allows you to grow older with grace, not fear. You've made it here. Now, take the next step. Carefully, kindly, and with your heart in mind.